5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com. And we are back, MGoBlog Roundtable, here every Thursday. And no Brian Cook today, but we have 2/3 of the Roundtable crew with us. Starting off first, I want to introduce Seth Fisher. Seth, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. We're talking offense, defense, in the spring football this week. So the defense guy is here, and the offense guy is not here.
Not here.
And then Craig Ross. Craig, how are you this morning?
I'm doing fine. If you guys would indulge me for a minute, I'd just like to say something about Mike DeBord. He passed this week. He was sick. I believe he may have had a stroke and in the past, and just a great man. I had a chance. Well, actually, Lloyd made him spend an hour with me trying to teach me something about zone offense when they were transitioning to that in I think it was 2006, and I felt a little guilty about it, but he couldn't have been more pleasant. And after about an hour of watching film with him, I thought, I got to get out of here. It isn't fair to this guy. But he was like, no. Let me bring Kurt Anderson in and let me show you some other stuff. And he couldn't have been more gracious. And then I sat with him. He was a tennis fan. I sat with him a couple times at tennis matches. And he was down at Bowling Green, occasionally helping out Scott, and I sat with him during games. He's a wonderful man. In my opinion, I know others will agree, he should have been the head coach after Lloyd left. I know Brian would violently disagree with this, and a lot of others would, but I think he would have been a fine head coach here, and things would have worked out better in retrospect, certainly. But beyond that, he was just a really kind man, really. And so anyway, that's it.
I know a few guys who who are coached by him and who knew him, and while I disagree on whether it would have been the best coaching move, given but he was a great offensive line coach. And the one story I have about him, there was an event they did for Jerry Hanlon a few years back, and every offensive lineman, that he coached, right? He coached every lineman the entirety of the Bo era, right? And also a bunch of Ohio State guys before that. So there were hundreds of guys there. All of them are over, 6 feet tall. Most of them are in 6'5" to 6'8" range. And there was like a circle of guys, mostly kind of like guys in the NFL or guys who were still coaching or whatever, right? Younger guys who were in this like circle that you couldn't see what was going on. Because remember, all these offensive linemen are just huge people, right? And so I was there with Dr. Sapp, and he and I kind of like wormed our way in there to see. And there's Mike DeBord coaching all these offensive linemen. So guys who are in the NFL, guys who are offensive linemen, coach themselves or coaches of other things right there. And there he is at this event, still coaching. And that was represented to me as that was kind of who DeBord was. That whoever you were, whatever you were doing, he wanted to make you better at it. And he left quite a legacy here. If you look at how many guys he put in the NFL and how many guys he had who were extremely successful in other things too.
Yeah, my wife also, she went to the women's clinic back when Michigan was doing that, and she came home and said, "Oh," and this was before I had spent any time with DeBord. She goes, "The offensive line coach, this guy Mike DeBord, he was just incredible. He was so much fun, So she was raving about him. So I think he made an impact on a lot of people.
You think about the guys under him, from Terry Malone, obviously lefty.
Yeah.
You can count Kurt Anderson, who has been an accomplished line coach. Adam Stinovich, who is obviously a really accomplished guy. So you've his tree, his sphere of influences, even in coaching. You can feel it now. So definitely a dude whose influence on Michigan from a player standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, will continue to be felt for a long, long time, for sure. For sure. Fellas, as far as this coming weekend, stating the obvious, looking forward to the spring game. We know that all eyes will be on 19, but there's a lot to look. When I ask you what you're looking for, people are going to say the quarterback. There's so much more to look at, but I guess starting with Bryce, I guess what are you excited to see about Bryce? Is there something specific that you are going to be looking to see when you watch him play on Saturday?
I mean, you're going to want to get a feel for how comfortable he is, and you wrote a fabulous article just yesterday about what you've been hearing in practice and how he's been responding in the second half of spring practice when they turned on the turned up the difficulty, right? Where now all of a sudden Wink gets to do all this stuff, and that's really I want to see. I know that they're going to show weird looks. I know that they're going to be messing around with a big nickel. They're going to be doing all these the next step up, right? Of bringing in all of like the Wink Martindale stuff from the NFL. And I think that that's difficult for NFL quarterbacks. So how is a true freshman guy going to be? We've seen some really bad quarterback play in spring games. Remember there was the interception fest just a year ago, and like the one before that was actually pretty bad too. And like there were times when we were like, oh, maybe this Davis Warren guy is going to be our savior because everyone else looks terrible. Like there's some dark times. And so just that confidence, that swagger, and I hope that, being a freshman doesn't do anything to it, but you want to see him. You remember seeing JJ. You want to see that, right? You want to see some JJ moments. The glorious thing would be some sort of thing like the Dylan Baldwin throw that JJ had. Now I know that was in a real game, but that was like a Western Michigan, right? Like you can do that in a spring game because then you do that in a real game. You're like, oh no, okay. But like if he does something like that in this game, that's just cool. So that's what I want to see.
Yeah, you saw that in that game, and even Cade was like, "Oh, shoot."
I mean, do you remember that play though? First, he runs out to the right side, right? And it was just like when DeBord ran out to that right side too, right? Yeah. Like there was like, oh no, this guy is screwed. Like here goes this freshman, and he is in the wrong spot. And then, with DeBord uncorked his legs, and we go, okay, we got something. And then, that pass just was like, whoa, yeah.
like, oh yeah, this dude is different.
So yeah, let's get him rolling out to the right sideline and see what happens.
The question I have is with Jaden Davis, and there's been a lot of noise that he's actually played pretty well. Now, I don't know what that means, but the noise is positive. I saw some film of him. Yeah, his motion is a little long, which was one of the criticisms, but his motion can be a little long and he can still be an effective quarterback, I think. But do you guys have any instinct or feeling about what's going on with him?
Yeah, I think you have a guy whose confidence has been restored. I think his confidence was shot. I don't think that just to be candid, I don't think that the dynamic last year was one where I think the lack of confidence was a two-way street between he and his coach last year.
So you think that Chip Lindsey is a benefit for him?
I don't think there's any question.
Okay.
And now whether that means that it will result in him ascending, I'm not saying that.
Right.
But I certainly think that it has made him more viable. I certainly think that has allowed him to push, at the very least, um, um, get out there and push Bryce more in this race, if nothing else than that. If not, rise up himself. So to me, if you want proof that they've invested in him honestly, then look no further than the fact that he's not in the portal, because there's every reason for him to be, because Bryce has been lights out in camp. Like there's been too many people in the program, from coaches and players, and then visiting the program, to say that. Too much confirmation from different phases of practice for it not to be true. Like, he's been lights out in camp. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to be lights out in games, because the dynamic in games, we've seen that too many times too, right? Bryce hasn't been hit. He hasn't faced actual fire where he's going to be really hit and tackled, right? So that's different. So, we don't know what it's going to mean when games happen, but he's been so good in camp. If they weren't seriously investing in him and showing confidence in him and like, hey, we believe in you, Jaden Davis would have been in the portal yesterday. I mean, guys are jumping in the portal left and right. Why wouldn't he be? Like, why wouldn't he go to Tennessee as soon as I can't even say his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why wouldn't he jump in? Why wouldn't he go to Tennessee yesterday? Right. So I think that's proof positive that, Chip, that, Josh Synagoga, that they have really invested in rebuilding that guy's confidence and, growing him as a quarterback and saying, hey, you're going to get a chance to compete here and let the chips fall where they may.
I mean, I've been standing against the current on this guy for a long time now. I remember back when his recruitment, where there was one side who was getting it right and one side that just seemed not to have any idea what was going on. I think you guys remember this too. And then the site that was getting it right was saying, this guy is committed to Michigan. This guy has, the parents are super committed, that he is and he's a long-term prospect. We're not looking at this like, we're going to come in and win the job. And they were talking about Bryce Underwood during Jaden Davis's recruitment.
They were.
And how that was going to work, right? At least the site that knew what they were talking about was talking about that. And I believe that. And I think that we've seen that work out, where Jaden Davis is not, because he was so highly ranked, because he was so prolific at Providence, people looked at that and said, okay, he's a 5-star. He's got to come in and start right away. That was never the plan. That was not the plan at all. And I saw he was in that class that I speak at, that Dooley teaches. And I saw him and I was like, he doesn't look like he was ready to be a quarterback last year. He was smaller. So he's come back bigger this year. He's always been that long-term development plan. And, you've seen quarterbacks get hurt before. I don't want to say that that's going to happen with Bryce. I'd love for him to have 4 years here of perfect health. But it happens to quarterbacks, and you need a backup these days. And then you need a backup who knows your offense. So now Jaden's been here a year. He's been through the install of this, been through spring. And I think Mikey Keene getting hurt was probably a good thing long-term for this program. I know it wasn't a good thing for Keene, and, they wanted to have him available, and he was a good quarterback last year. But he's not going to be part of your long-term plans, right? Jaden Davis is part of your long-term plans, and the opportunity to get him a lot of snaps and the opportunity to anoint Bryce right now and build everything around him and get that confidence built in him. You needed those snaps for these two guys. And I think it's really important for the program going forward to have both of these guys on campus, because Jaden is the perfect quarterback to have behind Bryce Underwood. If you're going to have a Bryce Underwood era, you want Jaden Davis behind him. And guess what? I don't think Bryce is going to be here 4 years. So there's going to be another season that Jaden can play.
Yeah. I mean, one thing it seems like is probably we're in better shape at quarterback this year than last year. Okay. I mean, maybe more than probably.
That's not hard to be.
Yeah. And interfaces, of course, with the offensive line issues. I mean, those things are connected. But
Yeah, that is what I'm going to be looking at. As much as obviously we're all going to be paying attention to the quarterback play. I just think so much is riding on how much better that offensive line is going to be. The miscalculation about how good they were going to be on the offensive line was, I think, as bad as the miscalculation about how good they were going to be a quarterback.
Worse, in my opinion. But
not going to the portal to get line help. I think they can ill afford, if they come out of spring ball feeling like they aren't certain that they are good enough at tackle. They have got to go to the portal and get whatever's best available at tackle. It doesn't matter if they don't know for sure that what's in the portal is better than what they have. Doesn't matter. You get what's best available out there, and you bring it in, and you let competition sort it out and figure out if it's better than what you have, and go from there. But you don't leave it to chance like you did last year. I don't even say left it to chance. I think they thought they were good enough, and they just were wrong. It just wasn't good enough last year.
I mean, they're talking so much about Evan Link, right? And from the very beginning of camp, they were saying like, "Oh, look, he had a great game against Ohio State, a great game against Alabama." We haven't charted those two games yet, so I can't say. I don't remember those being particularly great games at left tackle or at right tackle. And they're saying that Evan Link has moved over to left tackle and that he was more comfortable there. I'd love this. I would love it if Evan Link is the answer. And maybe he's just had a little confidence issue last year, but from what we saw, he didn't really have that athleticism to be out there at tackle. He can move some guys, and he had some really good run blocks, but he wasn't. He didn't have that agility to really hold off good pass rushers. And then you get to the spring, and Sherrone Moore's asked, "What are you seeing out there? Who's really performing?" And immediately names the defensive ends. And yes, the defensive ends are good. Right? We know those guys are good. No one's under any. If you've seen Derek Moore play or TJ Guy play, you know that those guys can play. And then he names their backups. And then I'm hearing Devin Baxter's doing really well at turning the edge. And at one moment you're like, okay, but against who? Right? Is he turning the edge on Evan Link? Is he turning the edge on Brady Norton? Because we're hearing Norton is playing out there a lot too. And Norton, I'm glad that we picked up a guy who can play, and they're saying that he can play football, but he's also 6'3", 6'2", right? I don't know if that guy's a tackle. So that's when you hear things in spring, it's always good, right? So you kind of have to open that up a little bit and try to guess what's behind it, and that's you get in trouble by guessing, and that's what we're doing. We're guessing.
Well, I mean,
that's the guess right now.
I think Sam's saying that's what he wants to see most. I think that's aside from some people who just want to come out and see Bryce Underwood. I think most people who pay attention to football want to see what this offensive line looks like. And that's remains the big question mark on this team. I mean, is Link going to be the left tackle? Gio back to left guard, Crippen center, right guard? I don't know. Right tackle Sprague. Is that, that's what it seems like. And I've heard some noise that maybe the guy from Cal, is that his name? Norton, Ben Norton, can play at right guard. I don't know.
And they have
I think there's some hope that Blake Frazier can be a guy, but it's just as his body has matured, it's just I think there's been a body maturation. He's battled injury as he's added this weight, and so as he comes back from injury, I think there's this belief that he could certainly factor prominently into the tackle equation too. But again, there's that chance. That's why I say I'm looking very intently at the tackle. I think your edge play is good enough, deep enough that whoever we see at tackle is going to get work, is going to get good work. And so I'm going to be watching that really intently the whole time to really see who's performing well at that position. And if it's not looking good, man, I'm going to draw a lot of conclusions from that. I know it's one game, but I think it's going to be part of a tapestry with what I am gleaning from over the course of the spring, which I will kind of be talking about more here in the coming days and even after spring ball, because obviously folks who aren't at the game is going to be on tape delay. So we're going to be obviously talking about things in the week after the game, leading up to the game being aired on television too.
Yeah, I mean, part of this too, they're talking about passing more, right? You ask anybody, and Samaj is like, oh yeah, we're running a lot more 11 personnel, and then you ask any of the players, and they're like, yes, we're passing more this year. Fine, whatever, right? Like you guys want to pass more to be, because you can pass again, right? You weren't passing with Alex Orji, but if you're going to do that, you need to keep Rice upright. You can really ruin a quarterback if he takes a lot of hits early, right? Because there's just some wild ingrained thing in quarterbacks where you have to just be confident enough to know to like keep your thought processes downfield when very large men are coming to kill you. And I don't think that anyone who's, including myself, who has not been in that situation time and time again, can understand how hard that is to fracture your brain and keep your mind on things downfield when very large men are coming to kill you. And the more that you get hit, we've seen time and time again with quarterbacks, the less confidence you have in what you're seeing, what you're looking at downfield, and the more a part of your human body is going to say, you need to protect yourself. So that's going to be really important this year. And if they have a major blindside problem, they can't pass this year. You cannot ruin your franchise by subjecting him to a bunch of hits this year. You cannot do that.
I mean, the one thing that's difficult will be difficult on Saturday to evaluate is that, the Michigan edges were pretty good last year against, say, Alabama and Ohio State. And if they're good against Alabama and Ohio State, who both have good offensive lines, it's hard to evaluate exactly where this offensive line might be. These guys are good on the defensive side.
Yeah, I got news for you about our schedule, though. There's some good defensive ends coming up too.
Yeah, okay,
it's not like you're going to, you're not going to get through a Big Ten schedule without playing some players.
Right. I know.
So.
I mean, that's true. But there's that. I mean, so I'm not sure even at the end of the practice you'll be able to really evaluate where we're at. What about Andrew Babaloa? Is he just too? Is that just way too early to be talking?
First overall pick, Andrew Babaloa.
Yeah, right. So I don't think it's I don't think it's impossible. It's just not ideal. Yeah. You want to see it. You want to maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe. Like let's see. Would I say right now that he's the guy? I don't know that I would say that right now that he's the guy, but could he be the guy come fall? Sure. He's certainly talented enough to be.
Yeah.
He certainly could grow into that. Competition could certainly over the summer and in the fall camp, he could certainly grow into being the guy.
Yeah, you guys all got to watch some. I'm not saying you guys on the radio. I'm saying the people listeners and whatnot. Anyone who thinks Babalola should be ready as a true freshman, go watch Miles Hinton at Stanford, and just see what a tackle looks like when he just doesn't know yet.
Right.
There's so much going on out there.
Right.
And it's not just in pass block. Run blocking is a very difficult thing too. And getting your targets right is a huge deal. You fractions of a second. You have fractions of a second to make your choice of how you're going to block a guy and how you're going to approach someone before you are just dead, before your hands are slapped down, or you have someone's crossed your helmet, or someone's just got their hands on your shoulder. These guys are professionals now, right? They get their hands on you. They're going to get into you. They're going to know what they're doing. They have jobs that they have to do. And it's very hard to block players at this level because it happens so quickly. So even if you have all the talent in the world, it takes time, because if you take a false step at offensive line, you are dead for that whole play.
Yeah. So.
Yep. There's a lot to process.
One other brief thing, and maybe this is for both of you guys, is let's say at the end of the spring, the staff believes we really have to get another guy or another 2 guys in the offensive line. I mean, what are the sort of systemic impediments to that? Do you have to come out and say, here's $1 million? I mean, what do you have to do? Well, I mean, if there's a kid out there that Michigan and everybody else thinks is, this guy can play and he's got experience. And so the things that Seth just talked about are less, salient for that person. I mean, are there those sorts of systemic blockades for Michigan?
I mean, there are systemic blockades. There's a limited pool of guys. You have underclassmen and grad transfers that obviously makes your pool more shallow than your contemporaries.
Yeah.
And then what do the financials say? I think you don't have as much to pursue in this cycle. To me, I think you can afford to focus more narrowly on, you're probably looking for a tackle. I'd be interested to see where they are at corner. I would be looking at that to see what the depth looks like there. But I don't think they have a ton that they're trying to grab. I think that is probably foolhardy at this point to try to pursue any more at receiver, because right now, them pursuing receiver help in the portal, you're getting all the same guy right now. For Michigan, the receivers they attract are the guys,
CJ Charleston.
Yeah, the big time guys, the number 1 guys, and this is even true in recruiting. They're starting to listen more. They see Bryce there, and the check is clear, but they have time to actually look and see what's going to happen, right? But the guys who are in the portal who are getting ready to play right now, it's like, wait a minute, I gotta see it. Like you guys don't have anything to show me that anything that looks anything like what you're saying. So the guys that they are getting are only the guys that are like, okay, there's a big check and I got a chance to come play on a bigger stage, but it's not like it's a guy that's done something big time at another place, and then I'm going to come at Michigan. I'm going to come over to Michigan and try to do it there too. You're not getting that guy to come to Michigan.
Yeah, the problem with receiver is, there's some positions and there's certain sports where there's a kind of guy you can get who is not really going to have a pro career. When you get to receiver, being tall, being fast, and being able to catch and being able to run routes translates directly to being able to do the same thing in the NFL. And you're talking about a guy who's going to be 1,000-yard receiver, or someone who's going to take a lot of pressure off the quarterback and whatnot. That guy, he's been running his system, right? He knows what his quarterbacks are going to do. They practice where the stop routes are. They practice, they have a way of running it. So if you want to interrupt what he's doing in the middle of his career to come and gamble on a program that, was getting 600 yards with Cornelius Johnson every year, that guy's just not there. Right, it's not a position, and cornerback's another position where it's really down to that talent is going to show on the field. So it's really hard to get a guy who's got NFL talent, and that's the only kind of guy who's that good of a receiver, unless you want to find someone who's who's just a security blanket, right? A Drew DeLeo kind of guy, and they've got those guys. That's not the guy they need.
Yeah, they need a big year. They need a nice year in the passing game. And now you can go get you a receiver in the portal.
Yeah.
that has actually done something of note elsewhere. Now you can go compete for a guy like that. We need to get to a break. Be back on the other side here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com.
And they are still paying for not
Clear
throwing the Nico
on
Collins.
the radio.
I'm sorry, Seth. What did you say?
I said they are still paying for not throwing the Nico Collins.
He's pretty good, I've heard.
The entire time he was here, it's just like chucking it up to him. He's like there was the one game against MTSU where he's just sitting on that cornerback's shoulder, and they throw it to him, and then he brings it down, then they did Alabama with it.
Think about the UConn guy. The UConn guy was not gonna come to Michigan because he's like, I'm not gonna come there. He's like, you guys, y'all don't throw the ball. Now, part of it was he wasn't gonna be able to go through spring ball. Michigan was gonna pay him, but he wasn't gonna go through spring ball, and that was a deal breaker. Why? Because he wasn't gonna go through spring ball and then come to fall camp and basically based on just going through fall camp and going to a season and playing a new offense, not having seen anything about what it was in the spring. It's like, hey man, I don't trust what you guys are saying or what you guys are. I don't trust what you guys are saying you're gonna be enough to buy it after what I just put up here at UConn. I know what UConn's gonna be offensively. You guys are saying you're gonna be something. And I saw what you guys were last year. That's not good enough for me. I'd rather stay here and put up the same numbers I put up at UConn for a little more money and go with that. That's how they got to put up some stats, man. They got to put up some stats.
It's understandable. It's understandable.
Maybe we can recruit like all these running backs and just run a gazillion running backs out there, and because they'll pick up the phone, right?
Well, I mean, it worked at
Ben Hall.
Yeah, we did lose Ben Hall, but I think he's a good running back. But I hope he does well someplace.
I adored him. It was a little disappointing last year when he finally got in the field against Alabama, and he didn't really do what he was doing in the spring game, and we saw he wasn't doing the things we saw from him before, which is a little disappointing. But I thought he was a really good running back. I thought he was a good pass protector. I thought that he was someone that Michigan obviously wanted because they do this thing. Like I said, in spring, you always kind of have to read between the lines. So one thing they do is they'll put you in front of the media. They'll hype you up. They'll talk about you. And they were doing that with Ben Hall. And that it showed that the program themselves wanted him to stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, did either of you guys see Trey McKinney in that game last Friday night?
I did not
see any of that.
Back in about a minute.
No.
It was remarkable. I was wrong about him. He is. I thought he was a project a bit. He ain't no project. Brian was right. He's ready to rock and roll. That guy is the deal. And he was even getting frozen out by the point guard, by Darius Acuff. He was freezing McKinney out. And McKinney had an unbelievable game. He had 22 points in 20 minutes and on 9 shots, and just physical. He's a freaking tough guy, and this was against really good competition. The team that the American team was playing, an international team wanted to win. They were talented and playing hard. This wasn't like an ordinary all-star game. This was like a serious game. It went into overtime. I think it was 124-114, and people were trying to play defense. They were just
and my guys are coming back in about 10 seconds.
Shots made.
It's called kombucha. I don't know.
And we're back on radio in 5, 4, 3.
I drink kombucha every day.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the Big1050.com. Before we get back to the roundtable, I want to tell those of you who are in the market for a new vehicle, you should get on board with Brighton Ford. Brighton Ford is the ultimate destination for your new Ford, folks. Head right in there, settle into the seat of your favorite vehicle, get in, take control, and drive off the lot. The car or truck that was meant for you. Go to Brighton Ford, call 1-800-NEW-FORD, or go online at brightonford.com and take advantage of huge savings from now through April 30th. Well-qualified lessees can lease a 2024 Ford Bronco Sport for as low as $321 a month with only $3,500 down plus first payment, taxes, doc fee, title, license, and state fees due at signing. Security deposit waive, 7,500 miles per year, 36-month lease. Call 1-800-NEW-FORD or see dealer for full details. Call 1-800-NEW-FORD today. Employee pricing means you pay what they pay. Brighton Ford, the official Ford sponsor of the Big 1050 WTKA. So, guys, we spent a lot of time there talking about offense. What are you looking for on defense?
Well, we heard some very nice things about the defensive line, especially Trey Williams and how far the tackles that they had on campus have come. They were grading out pretty well to me last year, especially against Alabama. I thought that Trey Pierce really kind of showed that he was stepping forward. Benny, I don't think it's not a secret, right? Rayshon Benny's the star. And so I think that they've got quite a defensive line. I'm kind of hoping that they don't look that good because I'm pretty confident at this point that the defensive line is going to be good. They've got so many guys. They have players coming in who are passing guys who already look good against Alabama. I'm not concerned about defensive tackles. So I really want to see the offensive line kind of move those guys just because I'm sure they're good. Linebacker, similar thing. They've been talking up Cole Sullivan. Coach BJ had a press conference where basically everything was coming up Millhouse for Michigan's linebackers. Mm-hmm. I think that, just reading between the lines, I think that going into the offseason, they're like, I don't know if we're going to be able to keep Barham and Hausman because those guys are NFL prospects. I'm not sure if Rolder's going to be healthy. And then Cole Sullivan's a redshirt freshman. What are we going to get out of that guy, right? And I think that, or maybe he's a true sophomore. I think he actually burned his shirt. So I think that they panicked a little bit and they made sure Bowles was going to be in the fold. And it's been helping them a little bit that Bowles is hurt because they've gotten to see some of the young, see what the younger guys can do. And they really like what they've got in the freshmen, and they are loving what they're seeing from Rolder, who's been healthy. And then you've got two of the best guys in the country already. So we got a great linebacker room and a great front. And I think that makes everything else easier. So I'm really just kind of worried about that corner spot, right? Has Jair Hill fixed the double move problem? What do the new safeties look like? Which safety really stands out? Is it Mangum? Is it going to, Rod Moore's not there, right? So you have to keep that in mind. But, I'm going to be mostly watching how the safeties move, how much they understand the defense, who's really going to do it. And the other thing I really want to see is Mason Curtis at that big nickel position. That's a thing that the Ravens did for years. They would run this 5-1 look all the time. It was something that we tried a little bit in 2021. They used a linebacker. They used Michael Barrett at that spot. But that big nickel is something they've been talking about for a long time. It's definitely something that's a big deal in the NFL nowadays, and I'd love to see how they're implementing that.
I heard that read that the nickel spot, perhaps leader there is one of the brothers who transferred in.
Metcalf.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Now, how accurate that is, but I've read it several places that TJ Metcalf is the leader right now, at least at that spot. I've also read over and over that Shamari Earls has been killing it at corner. You never can have too many corners, that's for sure. But that's the noise. And we just had a transfer, didn't we? And Brandon Hillman is the other one that.
They're talking about Hillman like he's a starter now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're holding off Sam, who's probably got some insight on what's going on there. But
Brandon Hillman's played really, really. I think Brandon Hillman has taken a major step this spring. I think they're expecting him to break out. TJ Metcalf, I think they knew would be a guy coming in. I wonder about Suge.
Earls.
To me, I wonder about Jair Hill.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's a matter of it's a matter of his football maturation. It's about football maturation. He is all the physical talent in the world. I think it was a matter of his experience from last year teaching him what he needed to what he needed to gain this offseason. And if he started to gain those things in terms of his preparation, what he needed to add in terms of strength, what he needed to learn in terms of preparation, in terms of film study and those things, has he added those elements to his game? I think we will see evidence of that this spring. Maybe we'll see some evidence of that, like you talk about the double moves.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, Devin Witherspoon was always the comp. Like from the moment that he committed, I was like, that looks. And Devin Witherspoon took 4 years before he really was Devin Witherspoon, right? He had some struggles, and even then, he was running a defense that was not anywhere near as complicated as Michigan's defense.
Mm-hmm.
That Illinois defense was, you're playing man. Next, next snap, you're playing man again. Now you're playing man. Now you're going to get up and play man. Now you're going to get up and play man again too. There was no, that's what Illinois did, right? And he was great at it. And he took away his guys, and that was a big part of that defense. And then he developed as a tackler, and he developed as the other things he developed as a side to just being a great man quarterback. And Jair Hill has played very well when he's just been asked to get up and play man.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, Michigan's defense doesn't do that every
right, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. So that's the football maturation part of it. We'll see how much of that he has added to his repertoire. I don't know how much of that we'll see in the spring game per se, but definitely some of the returns coming out of the spring.
I will add that, like, he came here because of that, right? Like he had a choice to go play somewhere where he's just going to emphasize what he's best at, and instead he chose to go somewhere where he's going to have to develop something that wasn't part of his game. He was a safety in Kankakee, and Kankakee is not your one of these programs that's constantly putting out NFL players. So he had a long way to go, and I think people expecting him to come in and be Will Johnson, who was a 7th grader going up against Devin Funchess, right? Not that guy. Now, Shamari Earls is more on that Will Johnson side, right? He's been doing it a little bit more, not nearly as developed as Will Johnson, but he's big, he's fast, he's got that, he's got that natural size and ability to just go out and do that. But remember, complicated defense. I'm not sure Shamari Earls is going to be,
Well, who else are you looking at right now at the corner spot aside from Earls and Hill?
Caleb Anderson.
Okay.
Yeah, I know he had he was working through some things, and so you that's one of the things that you want to see what the depth looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And do they have to go to the portal to get some more depth at the position?
Yeah.
So
Josiah Edmond, I think we haven't heard much about him yet, but he's showed some things last year, and I thought he would be your depth this year. I don't know why we haven't heard that much about him this spring.
Yeah, that was another one. So I think he was swimming last year. I think he had a lot of work to do when it came to just the you remember he was making the transition from offense to defense in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was the learning curve for him was really, really steep jumping in. So I think that part of it was a huge jump. And to his credit, I think he's been making some strides. And I think he will be more of a contributor this year. But again, I'm back to the point where this is where you need that honest assessment, kind of like you do at offensive tackle. Maybe you might need to go to the portal to get some help. We'll see. That's what we'll be looking for in the spring game. See if they got to do that. But we got to get to we got to get out of here. Not even just a break. That's going to do it for us here, folks, on this edition of the Michigan Insider. We'll see you tomorrow on the next edition of the Michigan Insider here on the Big 1050 WTK, online at thebig1050.com.